And welcome back to Janky AF. Now, here we have a 2002 Toyota Camry in Charmin Ultra White. And I know what you're thinking, there's no way you could possibly make a Toyota Camry greater than it already is. However, that is not true, because there is one thing you can do, and that is to cover it in Hey. It's hard to find a more unremarkable automobile than the Toyota Camry. Being the upmodel sibling of the Corolla, you could argue it is by default more remarkable than its Econobox sibling. However, the Corolla holds the very remarkable distinction of being the most sold car ever, with over 50 million units rolling off assembly lines over 12 generations. The name Camry comes from the Japanese word for crown, which certainly sounds noteworthy, but in reality, most people who fly in those lofty hemispheres drive Bugattis, Rolls-Royces, or Ford Aerostars. The thing about unremarkable vehicles is, they often help remarkable people do remarkable things. Take this car's owner for instance, Mr. Shawn Shafner. Shawn had his first professional gig at age 5. He began college at NYU at 17. Choreographer, dancer, singer, meditation and ritual guide, teacher, documentary filmmaker, podcaster, what can't he do? But perhaps the most remarkable, to me anyways, is his Ajax Bold as Love creation, the people's own organic power project. And yes, that spells poop. His recently published book, Know Your is aptly named because Shawn does. Traveling the country and the world, performing countless community engagements and 4 critically acclaimed shows, he is the preeminent expert on tackling humanity's greatest taboo, and doing it with style, grace, and humor. So when he asked me to create a toilet for a show celebrating World Toilet Day, I of course said yes, with one condition. I had to drive the Poopmobile. A toilet-clogging, girthy, janky do thanky to Shawn and his partner Fareed for their incredible generosity and kindness, and please dive into the links in the description. You'll never look at a toilet the same, in the most amazingly possible way you never could have imagined. But before all that, let's drive this friggin' thing, shall we? And welcome back to Janky AF, and every car is a great car, a very, very special one today. We are in the great District of Columbia. We are driving this absolutely stunning 2002 Toyota Camry as we go over a lovely little speed bump here. Some quick information about this Toyota Camry. It's 2002, the first model year that the XV30, that was the code for the Camry. Camry is derived from a Japanese word for crown, and it is fitting of royalty. So obviously you can see my wonderful, astounding guest with me today. This is Shawn Shafner from the Poop Project. This car is covered in poop decals because it is the Poopmobile. I was honored and fortunate enough to be asked to make a toilet. I paint toilets, if you don't know, for a little event that the Poop Project was doing. And I absolutely snapped at the chance because in addition to coming down, visiting Shawn, having some great time, eating some great food, I get to also drive this wonderful Toyota Camry.
Now, if I can just intervene,
please.
To say it wasn't a little event. It was big. It was huge.
Yes, it was a monster.
World Toilet Day.
Yes, it was World Toilet Day.
Right.
Thank you.
And Janky's toilet was incredible.
Well, belle of the ball.
Truly, it really was the belle of the ball. I think it got the most Instagram photos of anything.
There
at the
we
event,
go.
Which was the goal. I should also say that these stickers were designed by Lauren Taylor and printed by Matt Litwack on vinyl and applied in the fall of 2020. On the hood and the trunk, you will see some magnets that were designed by, I'm blanking on the name, gotta look that up.
We'll put it on screen for you.
There you go, love that. And initially, in its incarnation, its first incarnation, it also had on the hood a rainbow, and with like poop clouds underneath it that said "I'm a pooper," and then the back, the trunk, had a sun that was rising, and each like ray of the sun was a little poop.
Absolutely gorgeous. I also love that there's a road incorporated into the poop motif, which is beautiful because the Poopmobile did do a lot of miles. Shawn's put over 25,000 miles on this car. He inherited it from his parents, so it is a car of circumstance, which is one of my favorite types of car that wasn't necessarily chosen. It just kind of came into someone's life, and I absolutely love that. And you could do a lot worse than a Toyota Camry. There's a 4-cylinder motor in this car. We'll try to get the exact power figures on it on the screen for you. We're not going to be doing any race car driving today on account of these speed bumps and just our urban environment. But don't worry, we'll let it. We'll see what she's got.
Jenna Starks of Loquat Creative designed the magnets that you see on the hood and the trunk.
Thank you. So shout out to all the beautiful artists who did all the beautiful work. But I like it because now, in its current state, after being rode hard and put away wet, it's just got the perfect amount of jank on it. And let's talk about some of the jank on this car. Down in the right front quarter panel there, you have some beautiful structural damage that's been sort of put back together with some nice duct tape and other lovely motifs. Now, the funny thing about that is it's sort of the holes where the fog lights go, but there were never any fog lights there anyway, so in a way, it's just as good as it was the day it, left the lot.
That's what those are.
What's that?
I didn't know that those were holes.
Yeah, so on the more upscale models, you would have some fog lights in there. And speaking of which, I know this car for 2 reasons. One, my good friend Robbie Orenstein had a Camry of this generation, and also this generation Camry was featured in the movie Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Huh. And it was a silver model, and it was all gussied up, and you can see it jumping and sparks flying. It was one of those great cars in a movie that gets slowly destroyed over time, much like the movie Black Sheep. There's a car that gets Plymouth GTX, I believe, gets slowly destroyed over time. And this is sort of a slower version of that, but it is not destroyed. It is in great functioning condition. It's got a brand new starter motor on it. And this is just one of the perfect cars that is so great because it is so reliable. Toyota is just known for reliability. Any car you buy, if it's going to be older than 10 years or have more than 80,000 miles, you want to buy a Honda or a Toyota. That's just what you want to do. And so the Toyota Camry is a perfect example. I also love the Toyota Camry because the Toyota Camry, now I love the Corolla and I love the Civic. I've had a Civic before. I've actually had a Corolla before too. But the Camry, and I will say the Accord as well, which is its Honda counterpart, is great because the Camry is like the first car where you're getting something extra. It's not the base model. And actually, when this came out and was distinguished from the Japanese version, they called it the wide body because Japan has rules about how wide a car can be. And this was the wide body, meaning it's a little bigger. It was developed in collaboration with Lexus originally, when Lexus was first coming onto the scene around
American.
1992. Absolutely.
Like you're coming to America, it's time to get fat.
It's time to get big.
Yeah.
And this does feel quite wide. Like, even for a 2002, your center console is beautiful. It's nice and wide. You got tons of space. But it's also very long and angular. I really love the styling. I believe the Lexus ES300 or ES330 was the counterpart to this, which I actually love. I love the giant headlights. Headlights have gotten a lot smaller. Just look at the Kia Soul and how squinty and tiny the headlights have gotten, or the Mazda Miata, a lot of vehicles. But back in 2002, the headlights were long and large and voluptuous, and I just absolutely love the styling of this car. It's got a sportiness to it. No, go ahead.
If headlights got smaller, why am I blinded by everyone's headlights behind
Because the LED lights got brighter, so that's why they can justify making them smaller. But it's all about like angularity, and this car just has a roundness to it that I really, really appreciate. And when you're seated inside, you have plenty of space. There's a sunroof. This is the LE model, so you're riding in style, you're riding in comfort. I love the tan interior, and let's talk a little bit about the interior. First thing I noticed, your center console, very nicely laid out, and it just sort of sinks perfectly into the rest of the dashboard. It's just very well contained in here. All your panel gaps are very tight and nice, Toyota quality. I love that it's tan. It's a little bit of a grandpa spec in here. I love a tan cloth interior. It's just, kind of bare bones, and the tan and gold kind of gives you a little bit of air of luxury.
Don't neglect either, Janky, that this is a 6-disc CD changer.
6-disc CD changer.
That was an upsell for my parents when they bought this thing.
I love that it's a 6-disc CD changer, but, lest you get confused, you're only supposed to insert one CD in at a time.
But it also has cassettes and radio. I mean, this was pretty state-of-the-art for the time.
2002, great era in cars. It was a little before the auxiliary jack, so you have a CD and cassette. I absolutely love that.
This is like the equivalent of a MacBook Pro 2016, right? Like, it still has all the USB ports. They didn't fuck with that shit back then.
Nope. But, you know.
Stop.
Oh, that's a stoplight.
Sure is.
As we run a red light here in our Toyota Camry, only on Janky AF, ladies and gentlemen.
We only half ran it. A quarter. We
It was a quarter ran it, you know.
Blocking the box.
And maybe we'll, you know, at this, when this green light, we'll give it a little bit of juice just to see what this little, now it does have variable valve timing, so you're making a little bit more power than you would have in years past. And, you know, plenty enough to get out of the way. And also, have you measured your fuel economy in this vehicle? Do you know what you're getting? Have you?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I think
that was a setup.
The gas tank has somewhere between, like, I think 14 and 16 gallons.
Okay.
It goes pretty far. I mean, I think I can drive this thing to New York without needing it. I'll need a change or a new gas tank once I get to New York.
Okay.
So that's like, what, 250 miles?
Yeah, okay.
Like
so
that?
I would guess you're probably, especially with a four-cylinder,
like
getting
33, 34
wow,
miles to the gallon.
Really good. Anything over 30 in this day and age, quite honestly, is good. Especially a car which is, you know, not big, but on the bigger side. You know, like we said, bigger than a Corolla.
I'm so surprised and touched that you think this car is so plump. I often think about it as being quite small compared.
Look at that.
Whoa.
There we go. So we heard that engine rev out there, about as much of a pull as we can do on these busy city
that's
streets.
The first time she's done that since 2010.
Well, it's good. You got to rev it out a little bit. You know, clean out your fuel injectors and things like that.
Yeah, is that what that does? Also, the starter, like you said, is technically refurbished. It's not brand new, but it is new to this car as of like 3 days ago.
Even better.
Yeah, although the mechanic also told me we really should change the air filter in the spark plugs.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Definitely. At 150,000 miles, you're definitely due for some new spark plugs.
But the serpentine belt is looking A-okay.
All right.
He told me that. And, you know, to your point about the Toyota Camry, I took this car on the road from the fall of 2018 to the spring of 2019 as sort of an art project. And maybe we want to take a right at this next one.
Absolutely. So we got enough power to pull ahead and pass and merge lanes. Like an actual right?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to test out its cornering ability. Now, obviously, power steering, very nice and light steering. You know, I like heavy steering. I like to sort of like manhandle the car around. But in a car like this, you don't want that. You know, like I said, it's kind of like a Lexus in disguise. It's very comfortable. You know, you can do one finger steering with this. And for 150,000 miles, it still feels really tight. There's not a lot of rattles and creaks in here. It's fairly well damped. You feel the bumps, but it's nothing crazy. It rides really nice. It's very quiet. It's everything that you want a car to be, especially if you're going to soak up miles in it and just, you know, a highway cruiser or a town car. To the left, to the left.
You can keep going. This is the train station.
Oh, beautiful.
Just so you know.
Okay.
So when I took the car out on the road, my initial hope was to do something for this tour that was more in line with the Poop Project. Maybe have a car that ran on chicken or biofuel or something like that. And I remember a good friend of mine said, well, you have two options. You could have a car that runs on chicken or biofuel, or you could have a car that will easily get you across the country. And if what you want is the second, then I would recommend taking your parents' Toyota Camry. And that was how this came here.
Wise words. I have myself done a lot of research into running diesel engines on vegetable oil, and everything I've read, it's more of a lifestyle than a fuel choice. But you know, maybe one day here in Janky AF we'll experiment with that. But certainly, yes, you want something that's going to be reliable. You want something that's going to start up every time. And you can't do much better than a Toyota Camry. Another part of the interior that I absolutely love, this gauge cluster. This gauge cluster is nice and wide. All your numbers, you know, you could almost put an individual number on every speed here because it just slowly sweeps up. It's very simple. You have your tachometer, which revs out to just a little bit over 6,000 RPM. Even your little indicators for what gear you're in have a nice gradual sweep to them, which I really, really appreciate. And your temperature gauge and your fuel gauge are sort of integrated very, very nicely as little small mini gauges within your big gauges. Everything is very well laid out. You're not going to be distracted by trying to figure out what's going on. And it's that era where, you know, everything's digital, everything's reliable. You have fuel injection, variable valve timing. Here?
Oh yeah, sure. Just speed bumps.
Oh, speed bumps, yeah. Look at how those handles those speed bumps. You know, presumably this is your original suspension and it's still doing great.
Oh, yes it is.
you get like a nice angularity within the curves on the front. You get a nice view. You can place the car just fine, and it's fun to look out on and see all the wonderful hood angles and everything like that. So let's talk about the outside a little bit. Obviously, we've talked about the styling a little bit. Both mirrors have mirrors within the mirrors, which I really like, although they are not matching. On your left, you have a nice round one.
Those are definitely Mark Shafner editions.
Definitely some aftermarket editions, safety first. The one on the right is sort of a square with a rounded off one edge. They are quite like sort of fogged up, and there's a little bit of maybe some mold or some growth on them, so I'm not sure how much they're actually doing, but I like that they're there. And your right wing mirror looks like it's fallen off about 3 or 4 times. I see 3 or 4 different substrates that have been used to glue it back together. It looks like we have a little bit of blue painter's tape in the corner there. We have some spray foam, we have some tape. So just a wonderful amount of jank that has been added to this car to keep it going and keep it functioning. And of course, that's what we know what janky is. It's sort of functionality at all costs.
Some sort of teeny leak in the gasoline system. So when you start the car after it's been sitting for a little while, there will be a really toxic plume of smoke that emerges from the exhaust, because it's like something about the gas that's leaked into there is burning up. I remember asking my dad about this, because someone was very concerned that this might be a problem, and he said it is a problem, but it's also really expensive to fix, and not that big of a problem that you need to fix it.
So what you're telling me is this car farts?
It does, yeah. Only upon starting after a while.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, that's great.
It's quite a flatulent poop mobile.
Very on brand.
Mm-hmm.
I love this decorative little vines that we have hanging
It's from
here.
Austin, Texas.
There you go. So it's got, little souvenirs from all over the world. It's funny, I'm just noticing how high, now I will say for how, long this car is, it is fairly low and sleek. You have plenty of headroom, but your rear view mirror here is placed very close to the headliner, so much so that your fingers kind of ram in there. So that's sort of an interesting feature on Toyota's part there.
I will say too, this vine used to be alive. Now it's a dead air plant. But it, once upon a time was kept thriving.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Everything about this car is just, plain Jane, I guess you could say, but in a very practical way. And of course, that plays into the janky ethos. There's nothing outstanding to talk about, but in its regularity, it is triumphant. All your HVAC controls, do the heat and AC both work on this car?
They do. You also didn't mention the cruise control.
Oh, we got cruise control.
For its time, it's pretty revolutionary.
Absolutely. I have a 2002 Volkswagen Jetta, and I drove that from Texas all the way back to New York without cruise control. And I got to tell you, cruise control is a creature comfort that you do want.
It's a huge blessing. When you're like, this car has gone from Denver to New York and further multiple times, and like that drive through Nebraska, you can just cruise control and basically make a sandwich.
I think it says on the Nebraska state sign, the cruise control state.
I believe it does.
I think that's their motto.
I believe it does.
An enormous trunk on this vehicle, and that's another element of practicality. And I will say one feature I want to point out that I absolutely love. When we were loading the toilet into the back of this car after the event, I was worried about the hinges on the trunk closing and scratching the toilet, and the entire trunk hinge system is covered in this carpeted box that doesn't allow anything to hit it. So it's almost like a dummy-proof tool where anything you store in the trunk, you got to fit within the confines of that system, which I absolutely love. So that's just another great feature of the 2002 Toyota Camry.
The back seats also come down, so you can expand the trunk capacity if you need.
Plenty of backseat room too. The back seat very spacious, again with a larger model than a Corolla. You have room for plenty of people, and there's just an abundance of beautiful features on the car. The sunroof, you let some light in on a sunny day.
It's got a moonroof too.
A moonroof.
Just to say you
Let's
can
open that
tilt it up.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty fancy.
So as you can see, the Toyota Camry, just an amazing, amazing, great car. I've loved driving it. I would, if you ever sell this car, I may buy it off you because I like it that much.
It's not happening, Janky. Sorry.
I tried. So there you have it. Tell us a little bit very quickly about the Poop Project.
Sure.
And where people can,
Is there a particular camera I should face?
That one works.
That one? Okay, great. Hi. Will you ask the question again?
The Poop Project. Elevator pitch.
Elevator. The Poop Project is an arts and education organization that normalizes the do everyone does and catalyzes conversations about sustainable sanitation for the person, planet, and global community. So basically everybody poops, but it's generally a taboo in our culture to talk about that. And behind that taboo are lots of really exciting and necessary progressive changes to our culture and the way we sort of exist in our bodies and with other bodies and on the planet. So that ranges from our sanitation systems in countries like the US, where we're flushing these valuable nutrients into our clean drinking water and thereby polluting this other resource, the water, and creating a Rube Goldberg of necessary interventions to remove those nutrients back out. Otherwise, we wind up fertilizing toxic algae in our waterways and using fertilizer sources that come from the air and from phosphorus in the ground, which is a very carbon-intensive process. So the Poop Project aims to bring us more towards those regenerative loops. Globally, about 36% of the world lacks access to safe and dignified sanitation, which means that bacteria that can be present and parasites and things like that in poop get back into food and water, and they wind up getting people really sick and sometimes even resulting in death. Especially for children. So, the quest for global sanitation is part of the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN and is a really important factor to bringing sustainable livelihoods to everyone in the world. And I would say on a more sort of deep psychic level, shit is a part of our rejection of the animal grotesque body that snots and farts and smells and gets old and gets sick and dies. So coming into a more loving relationship with our shit is a way of coming into a more loving relationship with what it means to be a human. Again, on this planet full of other humans and other beings. So it's really about love from the bottom up.
That's right. So next time you take a shit, think about all that and think about how great it is to have a toilet in your home if you have one. And, just contemplate and consider these things.
Yeah.
That would be my pitch. And you can read so much more about it. And once you go down the wormhole or the toilet bowl, as it were, there's a whole nother world to discover. And I can't say enough about it. That's why I wanted to come down and give you this toilet. So thank you so much for everything.
And thank you. And you can find more at thepoopproject.org, other resources and other places to find out more.
Heck yeah. All right, that's been it for Every Car is a Great Car, 2002 Toyota Camry. What a pleasure. I wish I could have more time with this car, but maybe I'll just steal it and not tell Shawn, and, he'll have to just do.
If that happens, you tell me, okay? You're my friend, right?
All right, there you go. Another great car. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, you want to do the point with me?
Yeah.
Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And next we have the gentleman who's been very, very patient. Thank you so much, and I give you the floor. Please
Thank you so much.
identify yourself.
My name is Shawn Shafner. I'm from the Poop Project, and we're an arts and education organization here in the U.S. And I want to say thank you so much for having this, and everyone. I've really enjoyed listening, especially to those of you like Miss Kent and Miss Ingalls, and as well the delegate from New Zealand and as well above. Like when we talk about sanitation, especially in the US, I'm a New Yorker, we think of trash pickup. So let's get our language straight. Let's figure out ways to talk about this where we're actually talking about what we're talking about. And I want to, within that, appeal for two different ideas. One is that this is often a conversation about things that are happening far away. Organizations like Kim's and like many other organizations throughout the US, like Flush out of Portland, are doing work that involves toilets here on the ground. And we are a link to be able to connect these people to this issue in a way that's very local. And the issues that we face here in the US are also urgent, and I think as well in other developed countries. Similarly, I want to create an invitation to empower all of us that taboo is a cultural idea. It is a cultural thing that happens. It is not innate, as much as we may be disgusted by poop. And that culture makers are the next generation of people to take this on. And I did that myself as an artist. And I would just close with a short lyric from a musical we wrote called An Inconvenient Poop that was called the most important show on the Edinburgh Fringe in 2012. And it begins with each of us. I won't be silent any longer. We can't flush away our truths. We can't hold back what's inside us. I'm a pooper, and so are you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for that.